Yeah. Clear enough for you? All right. Yeah.
Welcome. This is a special Any Given Wednesday only edition of the BS podcast. We tape these shows and we only have a half hour for the actual show, but I like to go long for them when I have the guests. So we always end up having a bunch of extra content. And that was actually one of the goals of the show, because I think the old school format of these shows is the guest just comes out, you tape, maybe they're on for 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes, and then they leave. And my thinking was, if I'm going to have some of these celebrities on, why wouldn't I want to have them for longer than that? Why wouldn't I want to go in a bunch of different directions, try some stuff, do some different gimmicks, and try to leverage the time I have for as much content as possible? HBO is HBO Now. We have YouTube. We have this podcast. We have a bunch of places to put the extra material. And actually, if you go to the Any Given Wednesday page on HBO Now, they have a new splash page going up that really easily assembles all these clips so you can watch all this stuff. And it's all on there from the first 4 episodes. So what we're going to do right now is run 7 different extra clips that were not on the first 4 episodes of the show that we're going to run now just the audio of. And I actually think they really lend themselves well to the podcast form, which is why I wanted to do it. So these clips include Charles Barkley, Ben Affleck, Mark Cuban and Malcolm Gladwell, Bill Hader, Joe Rogan, Chris Bosh and Anthony Anderson, and Aaron Rodgers. And the first one up is Charles Barkley. We did a speed round with him that was so much fun. It could have gone on for 2 hours. I had so many questions. We had to cut it down to 12 minutes. But really the goal of this was to find out what a Cliff Robinson shower was. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago on TNT. After a game, they talked about a Cliff Robinson shower, and all of them just started laughing hysterically. And it was like this huge inside joke, and the internet kind of went crazy about it for 6, 7, 8 hours trying to find out what it was. And we never knew. It was like the Bigfoot of NBA references dropped in a post-game studio show. So I got to the bottom of it, along with a bunch of other things with Charles Barkley. Here is that right now. All right, it's time for speed round with NBA Hall of Famer Charles Barkley.
Now, do I have to answer or just say a word?
You have to answer, and it's got to be fast answers.
Okay.
Which current NBA player reminds you most of you?
Not that fast, huh?
This is not speedy.
Draymond Green.
Oh, the nut puncher.
Yeah.
Okay. Cheapest player on the 92 Dream Team?
Scottie Pippen.
Scottie Pippen?
Yep. No tipping Pippen. That's his nickname.
Why haven't you ever gone to Magic's house to get your 1990 MVP trophy?
Yeah, I've been salty about that since the year I should.
Why don't you just go and get it? Just take it.
Well,
go over there. He lives in Beverly Hills.
First of all,
Just go
Magic's
take
a
it.
billionaire, and he's probably got security. So that's the only reason I haven't went over
Maybe
there.
if you're at like a Christmas party, you just kind of sneak over.
Listen, if he just
It's yours. He's had it for 26 years.
Listen, if he just gave me like Starbucks for life, we'd be golden.
What cost you more money over the years, Vegas or your daughter?
Vegas.
How close is
But my daughter is fun, but Vegas is more fun.
Okay. Do you think NBA stars used PEDs when you played?
No.
Do you think they use them now?
No. Because I don't think they'll help you, to be honest with you.
You don't think having more endurance and more strength would help you? And the ability to recover faster?
I think we're the best in the world at physical conditioning.
Okay.
And I don't see it giving you, because there's no player who came out of nowhere and just like got better. Like the same guys you see in high school and college, they're the ones who do well in the pros.
Do you also believe in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy or no?
Oh, listen, I believe that Santa Claus is black, and I believe the Tooth Fairy is.
You're the funniest NBA player ever. Who was second? Who's the silver medalist?
I think Dennis Rodman is funny.
Was Manute funny?
Manute was hilarious.
Okay.
One of the best teammates ever.
Oh, I was going to ask you that. Who was your favorite teammate ever?
Well, there's probably 3 or 4. I can't go one. Rick Mahorn, Mike Jaminski, Derek Smith, and probably Dan Marley.
Rick Mahorn had your back if you got in a scuffle with someone.
Yeah, but he was hoping I wouldn't get in a fight because he couldn't fight.
Always seemed like
okay,
a good
remember
fight.
that. Okay, think about this.
You fought Rick Mahorn.
Go back and look at the Bad Boys Pistons. First of
Yeah.
all, the two toughest guys on the team were Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars.
Yeah.
But the other two guys who act like they were tough were Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn. Have you ever seen them actually win a fight? You've always seen them getting punched. But you've never seen them actually win a fight, have you?
You clocked Bill Laimbeer.
I did, and he deserved it.
He came at you, though. I was impressed.
Yeah. But let me tell you something. Have you ever seen Mahorn and Laimbeer win a fight? They've always been getting the punch E. They were never the punch er.
Laimbeer even lost a fight to Isaiah Thomas. He was like 10 inches shorter.
But Isaiah Thomas
Isaiah's
tough
a
now.
bad
Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars, you didn't mess with them boys.
Yeah. What happens if the 93 Suns play the 06 Warriors?
Oh, we beat them like a drum.
Beat them in 5?
Yeah. No, we won't beat them in 5, but we'll beat them.
Do you hard foul Steph within the first 2 games?
Oh, yeah. You got to set the tone.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
many times does he run by you when he's running around
You
screens?
hit him every single
Or you
time.
just-
Hey,
you
listen.
push your butt right into him?
Anybody who does not think that all the physical pounding going back to Oklahoma City
Yeah.
and against the Cavs didn't have an effect upon Steph, they don't know anything about basketball.
The Clippers always defended him that way.
Yeah,
That
you
was
have
what
to.
they did. It's been 23 years. Have you stopped blaming Kevin Johnson for no showing the first 2 finals games in 93 yet?
I have forgiven. Well, first of all, we only didn't show, and I was part of that too. I take responsibility for that.
Okay.
Because I didn't get my team ready to play.
Yeah.
Because the finals are
You're
different.
home.
The finals are different. The lights were too bright for us, and I blame myself for that. I should have been a better leader on that situation.
That's a very diplomatic answer.
No.
You should be as nice to
Hey, man,
Kenny Smith and Ernie.
Everybody, well, I'm always nice to Ernie. I'm never going to be nice to Shaq and Kenny.
Fair. Do you think you reached 75% of your potential as an NBA superstar?
I probably reached more.
80?
No, I probably got 100.
There's a couple years where you were a little out of shape,
Only the last year.
but near the end.
Yeah.
What about a couple of the Philly years?
I was in great shape in Philly every year.
Really?
Yeah, every year.
Well, wait, in Phoenix, you lost like what? How many pounds?
I didn't lose
25?
any weight in Phoenix.
Really?
The only year that I was fat was my last year in Houston because they had promised me $12 million. And when I showed up, the contract was only for $8 million. And I said, what happened to my other $4 million? They're like, well, we just decided to keep it. And I says,
And then you started eating?
I did. I did. I was so pissed. They did. It was like, they did. Because what had happened was I took a pay cut so we could sign Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was going to come without Michael Jordan. That was a full pause on my part.
Yeah. You thought he was coming.
So they says, we need you to take a pay cut so we can sign Scottie. So I said, okay, I would love to play with Scottie. So they said, we'll give you $12 million next year. So when I showed up the next year, they bring me a contract, and I said, this look like an 8. They're like, yeah, we're going to give you $8 million. I said, what about the other $4 million? They're like, well, we just changed our mind. So I wasn't motivated.
Did you not have an agent or?
Well, no, I took my agent out because my agent didn't trust him.
Yeah.
I should have fired him then.
Yeah, that sounds like a fireable offense.
No. He said, do I trust him? Because, back then, because what had happened was, you go back and look at that time frame, the Minnesota Timberwolves did an under-the-deal table with Kevin Garnett and got busted and lost all their draft picks.
That was Joe Smith. It was Joe Smith.
It was Joe Smith, excuse me.
Yeah.
So now teams were doing those under-the-table deals. They didn't want to put anything on paper. So I trusted the Rockets, which
that
was a mistake.
We got sidetracked.
Okay.
Most underrated NBA star from your era?
Great question.
Just say Kevin McHale.
Oh, Kevin McHale's the best player I ever played against, period.
So he counts.
Yes.
How many years?
You ever answer any question with anybody other than Boston?
No, I mix it up sometimes.
Okay.
How many years would you have lasted playing with Kobe Bryant before you asked for a trade?
I think I could have played with Kobe because I could do other things.
Like 8 years?
No. First of all,
6?
we would have been really good together. See, Bill, I was content. Like, I was going to get at least 20 points, but I was content on getting 12, 14, 16 rebounds a game. So me and Kobe would have been fine together.
That's one of my favorite things that you say when you get mad that centers can't get 12 rebounds in a game.
No, it
It's
bothers
3
me.
a quarter. You're right. It drives me crazy too.
When I look at, once I got into the starting lineup, was after my rookie year, I never averaged less than 10 rebounds a game. Like, it drives me crazy. Like, who can't get 10 rebounds a night?
I know. I feel like I could get 10 rebounds.
Like,
Just box some
first of all,
people
you're
out.
standing in the paint.
Yeah.
The ball's going to bounce to you 7 to 8 times. I played with a guy who said, I'm going to get 2 off missed free throws, Mike Jaminski. Mike Jaminski is one of my best friends. We'd be standing on the free throw line. Somebody would miss a free throw. He'd come all the way across the free throw line and almost knock me into the stands. He says, that's a rebound.
Did you ever play golf with O.J. Simpson?
I did not.
Golden State owner Joe Lacob claims to be one of the world's 10 best blackjack players.
There's no great blackjack players. It's only great cards. Hey, first of all, I always tell people say I'm a good gambler. There's no such thing as a good gambler. When you're getting shitty cards, you're a shitty gambler. Like, I love to gamble, but when I'm sitting there getting my brains beat in, when I'm getting 12s and 13s, and the dealer's flopping over 20s and 21s, like, gambling is just really a thing about peaks and valleys. But don't tell me that the biggest adjustment I made in my life, Bill, I quit trying to break the casino.
Yeah. Good move.
Yeah. You know, no.
That's why they keep building them.
No, Bill,
people try to
let me
rig
just
them.
say this. I went to Vegas, and I've won $1 million probably 6 times.
Yeah.
I probably lost $1 million 20 times. So, no, that's the truth. So what happened was, every time I went to Vegas, I was trying to win $1 million.
Yeah.
So I quit gambling for 2 years, and my friend said to me, well, gambling's not your problem. Your problem is you're a fucking idiot. And I said, explain
Fair
to me
enough.
why. Because my friends have to be honest with me.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems with celebrities, they never put people around them as a checks and balance. My friends, they better tell me when I'm doing something stupid. So my friend says to me, Charles, you'll be up $300, $400, $500, $600,000, $700,000, and you won't quit. You're trying to get to that imaginary number that you won a few times. And so now when I go gamble, if I win a couple $100,000 or I lose a couple $100,000, I'm like, okay, guys, we had a fun weekend. Let's go home.
You could change one NBA rule. What would you change?
Have kids stay in college for 2 years.
You played with the first Cliff Robinson. There
Yes.
were 2 Cliff Robinsons.
Yes.
You guys made a joke once about a Cliff Robinson shower, and everybody laughed for like 5 minutes.
we call it-
What's a Cliff Robinson shower?
It was like a drive-through.
So what happened?
Like, he would walk through the shower, get wet, and keep moving. No soap, no nothing. We call him drive-through. You know when your car just go through the
Yeah.
drive-through? That's where he went through the shower. He would just go in, he'd walk through the water, and then he'd be right back. Then you just go in there?
But how did Kenny and Shaq know what that was?
Oh, because that's
So
all,
everybody in the league knew what a Cliff
that's-
Robinson shower
That's
was?
all we do is sit around and talk about the old days. Bill, when you're old and fat,
Okay.
that's all you got is the good old days.
30 years ago, Dr. J, Magic, and Dominique are all at the club, and they all like the same girl. Who gets the girl?
Dr. J,
Okay, that's what I figured.
yeah.
Dr. J is like a minus 300 favorite?
Dr. J is, there's certain people, when you're like, oh, that's Dr. J.
Yeah.
You say that with reverence. He deserves that.
Okay. Favorite piece of memorabilia you've kept from your career?
I don't keep any memorabilia.
Okay. No photos, nothing?
No, I think I got a Dream Team flag from the first Dream Team.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I got everybody to sign it. That's probably my most favorite.
That's a good one.
Yeah, everybody signed it. It was pretty cool.
All right, 3 more.
Sure.
Best looking woman you've ever seen in person?
Probably Jennifer Lopez. She's beautiful.
Should any NBA player ever date a Kardashian?
No, and that has nothing to do with the Kardashians. I don't know them, but
You just said no. It has a little something to do with
I
them.
don't think any person ever should discuss their personal life, especially not putting it on television. Like I tell people, you can ask me anything in the world you want to. I think any celebrity to answer any personal question is an idiot. And to go on TV makes you a bigger idiot.
Last question. What happens first? Tiger wins a major or my show gets canceled?
Well, listen, I'm on the first show, so I don't care what happens after this.
Charles Barkley, thank you for being the first speed round.
Thank you.
All right, this next one is also from the first episode. Ben Affleck was on. Controversial appearance because he went full masshole about Deflategate, and I loved it. And so did New England. We did tape this at 10:30 in the morning, I should add. People were wondering why he was so upset because we taped for a half hour, and we edited a couple different pieces together, including that Deflategate thing for the show, but we also had a whole bunch of other stuff, including this 8-minute clip about him talking about what it was like to be famous in his mid-20s, and also the whole experience of putting Good Will Hunting together, which I thought we easily could have just used this for the show. So instead, we're putting it here.
I don't think people realize you became super famous when you were 25. It's pretty young. I was 25. I think I was unemployed or barely employed. What would you, if you could go back 20 years ago, what would you tell yourself?
Saying about having more money than sense, or more something than galleons than brains. I don't think, I have to say, I listened, somebody emailed me and said, I really liked your commentary on Armageddon.
That was a big internet thing last week.
I just went back and listened to it. It actually was pretty funny. And it was me before I realized that, you don't do the DVD commentary and shit on your own movie when you're doing it, you know what I mean? And make fun of the whole thing. So it's kind of endearing in a way. It was very funny. It made me think I should shit on all my movies in the DVD.
Well, you did a Good Will Hunting commentary that's actually really good. I mean, that's one of my favorite movies.
So I probably wasn't shitting on it.
No, you weren't shitting on it, but it was funny. It was like it was like Mystery Science Theater a little bit. I think you should just do every movie. Just bang them all out. Reindeer Games, just go all the way through them.
Yeah. I mean, I just know that it was very fast and very hard to, and mistake that I made was that I thought that being real and hanging on to who I really was meant also hanging on to a certain kind of knucklehead aspect of I grew up in Boston, I'm gonna do be who I really am and say what I really feel. It's a little bit about I'm not gonna grow up or mature in some ways, because that would mean
but that's
selling out.
That's Boston, though.
It is.
Boston is very I don't care what happens to me. I'm going to be the same guy. I'm going to have that, and you try to stick with that.
Yeah, and then that was a little bit of of the attitude that I have. I think it came across as just this kid's a moron. You know what I mean? Just immature and a little bit like a knucklehead or something like that. Not a moron, but just a kind of attitude of, I'm not going to change, you know what I mean? That's this whole thing of you never change, you know what I mean? As if change is the real enemy.
Right.
You go to Hollywood and you get successful, but the thing is you can never change. Change is actually a good thing, you know what I mean? Change and growth and that stuff is healthy. You're supposed to change and get better and evolve and get smarter, and I sort of actively resisted that, and instead just, had bunch of my friends from home living in my house with me, and we all just got drunk every night, and I was like, I'm never changing,
There's a great Good Will Hunting oral history, and one of the parts in there is about how after you became famous, SNL did a sketch about you guys, and Damon was the smart guy in the sketch, and you were a knucklehead, and Damon was saying how it hurt both of your feelings because you realized people's history with you guys was just as these two characters, and they weren't actually, you weren't people to them, and it was kind of illuminating.
Yeah, there was definitely.
That wasn't a question, by the way. I did a bad job there.
That's a Bob Costas.
That was a Bob Costas.
Bob
question.
Costas just goes on and on.
It was
and on
a
at great
pontification.
length with bombast.
Yeah.
And then you just were supposed to go, that's right, Bob.
Yeah.
How observant.
But
and then the next question, he says something else.
So Ben, was that an illuminating experience for you?
It was an illuminating experience, Bob. It was illuminating because I realized that people conflated our characters with us, because that's just what they knew us. We got really famous for these two characters, and people didn't know us from anything else. And I just kind of assumed, well, people will naturally feel judge us or give us credit in equal measure, considering we both wrote this story and came up with this idea. But it's really a powerful thing. I mean, you kind of still to this day, you think Sylvester Stallone kind of is Rocky.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think he thinks
maybe. But it's we identify people with characters really strongly, especially when they are the first big impression that somebody makes. And I think that the impression that got made right off the bat with me and Matt was not two guys who write a movie and come up with these interesting characters, but rather like this tough genius and his friend and his like lunkhead friend come out of Boston and tell their own story to the world. You know what I mean? In a way that it was a sort of semi-autobiographical story.
You guys had like every great and bad experience that happens to people who become famous overnight. Because like right before you won the Oscar, people are leaking that you didn't write the script. And meanwhile, you'd spent, what, like 5 years on it? You've done 17 incarnations. And like, there's a great story about when you did the construction scene with him, that you'd been waiting to do that scene for, what, 4 years?
Yeah, at least.
And then you did it in one take, and you were like,
yeah,
okay, now what?
We did it once, and then I was kind of like, that's it. And he was like, I don't know. And Gus was like, yeah, but we could go one more time. And I was like, yeah, let's go again. I had been practicing this moment, in bed and working out, for years. And
You're in
years.
the bathroom, coming out of the shower, doing it?
Just like that, and yeah, that script we spent rewriting probably more time in aggregate than I spent writing all other scripts that I've worked on combined, just because, we didn't have anything else to do, and so we kept just sort of rewriting it and trying to get people interested in it. And then when it got sold, we ended up, working on it for a couple of years while it was in the studio system and taking these very circuitous routes to where it ended up. It did get better, by the way, as we continued to rewrite it, but it was a long process from being, I don't know, when we started the script, it's 18 and 20 to whatever it was, 24 and 26 or something when the movie came out.
And it's true you guys cried when the first scene happened?
Stellan
Skarsgård and Robin Williams, and they're reading your lines, and you guys both teared up?
We did tear up a little bit.
That's awesome, though.
We were
I mean, to spend
jaded.
5 years on a script.
Yeah, it was just one of those involuntary things where our whole identities were wrapped up in the idea that we were the guys trying to get this movie made. And anytime we went out to a bar, anytime we went to a restaurant or met somebody, that was our story. That's who we were. The kids, we had this script. That was it.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything else to talk about. We weren't doing anything else. Aside from that, we were the most boring people in the world. I mean, that was all we had.
Yeah.
And that's all we talked about. And that's all anybody who hadn't seen us in a while, how's that going? You guys have that script, right? You're trying to get that movie made. And yeah, and then we get blah, blah, blah. We'd talk about, our latest adventure and being stymied by movie studios. And so when it finally happened, it was kind of like we didn't know who we were anymore.
Yeah.
If we weren't the guys trying to get this screenplay made, we kind of lost our identity to get the people who made the movie. It was almost too weird. I remember seeing my father's name is Tim, and we named arbitrarily the bar that Stellan and Robin went to have a beer at, Timmy's Tap, just because we couldn't think of a name, and then we were there the first day, and the neon sign was like, there it was, this big neon sign that said Timmy's Tap. And we realized that somebody, like from our just sort of typing it down, somebody had gone out and bought some whole $500 Timmy's Tap sign. It was a giant thing, and I was like, I gotta have that, I gotta keep that, and I kept it, and I put it in my apartment in New York, and I was like, Dad, I got a sign, a big Timmy's Tap sign. And he was like, I don't want that. Why do I want a big Timmy's Tap sign? I'm not a bar. I was like, okay, good point.
All right, this third clip is with Mark Cuban and Malcolm Gladwell. It's from the second show we did. I actually had these guys on to talk about PEDs, which is why when we did if you watch the second episode, the opening was about PEDs, and then I was going to lead into a PED discussion with Gladwell and Cuban. So we taped the first segment, and then we did a second segment about NBA owners, and we just liked the one about NBA owners more. I really like this PEDs one too, and if we really could have just had the whole second show with these two guys because they were great together. So here is Cuban and Gladwell talking about PEDs with myself, and this is really fun. Let's go.
That's Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and that's Malcolm Gladwell, best-selling author turned podcaster.
Revisionist history.
Revisionist history. There's not been revisionist history yet about HGH. You've been a vocal critic. You feel like there's a public stigma with HGH and athletes. What are we missing with HGH?
We're missing that there's no data that proves one way or the other that it enhances or does or doesn't enhance performance. None. Zero. It's never been tested.
Malcolm, do you care if somebody uses HGH to recover from an injury?
I don't. I mean, you and I have had this conversation before about it's an important distinction between things that you take to recover from an injury and things that you take to augment your performance. The problem is that it's really hard in the real world to make that distinction. I mean, it's a great distinction in theory, but I wonder whether there are a lot of drugs that might do both or a little bit of both simultaneously. So that puts it in a gray zone that's hard to figure out.
All right, so you're pro HGH. If the NBA legalized HGH, you'd be good.
No, because there's no evidence one way or the other. So what I did was fund a study at the University of Michigan where they're taking 236 athletes that have had ACL problems.
Right.
And for the ACL surgery, they're going to give half HGH before and after to see if it helps with the recovery, and half of placebo, and we'll see. So rather than guessing, I don't care one way or the other. I just want to know the facts.
Malcolm, you were kind of a little bit for HGH, but now you've turned.
Well, it's the problem is that I'm principally a track fan.
Right.
And when it comes to track and field and EPO and things, I've become a total hardliner. There is no place for anything like that in a sport.
Hardliner.
It's
like the 1920s.
Football, exactly. For football's way though, because football is in a special case where the injury load associated with the game is now so out of control. I mean, this is essentially a game that cripples everyone who plays it. When you have that kind of problem with the game, you have to look at different ideas about how to deal with that, right? I mean, it's negligent on the part of the NFL to play the game as it is now and not spend real dollars on trying to figure out how to prevent or speed up recovery.
So I'm guessing you wouldn't let any of your kids play football.
Oh my God, I wouldn't let a friend play football. I mean,
I wouldn't let my son play football. No chance.
And basketball, everyone's like, no, they don't use it in basketball. No, it wouldn't really help. It's like, I really find it hard to believe that recovery drugs that help you build your strength back after you've been, why do we think that we don't have this in the NBA?
I mean, I don't think any of our guys has ever taken it. The guys in the locker room talk all the time and they guess who they think has.
Yeah.
But you're gonna name any names?
No, because I'd just be guessing. But
isn't it obvious just by looking at some players that something's going on?
You would think so, but it's hard to say, right? Because there's never been a study. It's not like you can say, look, we took these 200 athletes, and here's the 100 that got placebos, here's who got HGH. Now look at their body shapes, look at their physicality, and see what's happened. And then here's what happens after they came off. There's no really reference points for us or benchmarks.
Do we know at this point precisely what Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were taking during that historic home run run?
I call those the old school steroids. Remember when we were growing up in the 70s and the communist countries that have these athletes that were like,
no, I grew up in
Pittsburgh.
Have those I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I used to see a lot of the players like Steve Corson, who since died.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd be out humongous, and I mean, he'd get into roid rages, and you'd talk to, I'd hang out with some of those guys, and the stories were scary.
Right, but they were basically like steroids you give to a horse. I think now the steroids are actually probably better and sleeker.
Much more.
Well, they're safe.
A lot of that, but no, I think a lot of what has gone on is that people have switched from some of these cruder, older steroids to things like, and I say things like HGH. This is why I ask about Sosa and McGwire. So we know that it's very clear they got a substantial performance benefit from taking something.
Right.
Over the course of those years. And that performance benefit was not small. It was on the order of 10, 15%.
Yeah, I would say like 30. And it saved baseball.
It did save baseball.
It happened to save baseball. But it was among the things they were taking, or bonds later on. I would love to know if he had in his cocktail, any of those guys had in their cocktail HGH. That's a good way to start this question, right?
No, no, because you just have to do a study. You answer a question with data, right? You look at steroids. The stigma of steroids, when you ask people, what's the problem with steroids, aside from performance enhancement? Well, we don't want it in the game because it'll encourage kids to do it. Is that a valid reason to keep it out? Because the reality is, safely administered by doctors, steroids are safe. You don't see people who have taken steroids under the care of a doctor falling over dead or having problems. You see people, athletes who took them themselves, self-administered, bought them on the black market. Those are the ones that have problems. So the question is, what does it do? What does the data say it will do? And what is the enhancement from that steroid or whatever it is? And then you make a decision. But you can't make a decision without data. You can only guess.
Well, it seems like the data and the testing is now worse than ever. And you saw what happened in the Olympics, where the Rio drug testing lab basically has become invalid. and now we're looking at these Olympics, I don't know what I'm watching anymore. Like the Summer Olympics are coming up. It's like, what am I watching?
Would you rather
Where's
watch
this
an
going?
Olympics where they just say, you know what, HGH, steroids, they're all legit?
Well, first of all,
I would. I would say baseball to save track and field.
You
too.
already first of all, you already watched that.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
I watch
right.
it every 4 years.
You watch. So in 2012, this is the thing that, because I'm a track fan, in 2012, 6 of the top 9 finishers in the women's 1500 meters in London have subsequent to that race been either kicked out of the sport or evidence has been found that they were using drugs. So when you watch that, I mean, I watched that race, thrilling race. 6 of the 9 that we know about were on the juice. That wasn't a real race.
What if 9 of 9 were?
First of all, I don't think I'm not. Shannon Robury was not on the juice.
No, I'm not. Meaning if it was legit, right? If they all could take with the doctor's care.
And that's not fair, because what if I don't want to? What if I'm competing and I don't want to take the stuff?
So
Then
you
now I
shouldn't
feel
get LASIK
obligated
surgery
to
to improve your vision past 20/20 so you can see a baseball better?
Well, LASIK surgery is that's a good one.
Tommy John
Because
surgery?
that's actually
voluntary.
people
What about
have bad
voluntary
LASIK.
Tommy John surgery?
Yeah.
Literally voluntary.
I mean, there's a massive gray area in those sports. I will say this about Olympic sports, though. When you have a sport that is almost wholly defined by the time, right? By a timed performance, the introduction of these kinds of drugs, which can cause, particularly in women, I mean, people have forgotten that steroids and any kind of drug, EPO, any of these PEDs have a much greater effect on female performance than male performance. Yeah. So with men, it's like that. With women, it's like that. So we're talking almost entirely about male use here. Female use is a whole different ballgame, right? You're turning essentially people who are, ordinary people into superhuman athletes with the use of these drugs. That gets really weird.
My wife had a sinus infection. They gave her steroids. She was just nasty around the house for like 3 days.
Well, let me ask you this. So
Not
I
anabolic
read a New York
steroids.
Times article where this professor from SMU went to the Dead Sea and he's training people because it's literally below sea level, right?
Yeah.
So the oxygen levels are much higher. So if you train people there, is that the same as doping? Because you're increasing your oxygen levels and you increase your performance.
Well, runners always train at altitude, right? Because by training where there's less oxygen,
And you can simulate that now.
You stimulate
and you
and you can
simulate
do it
that
in an
now.
oxygen tent.
Right.
But there is a, I think it's safe to say, we'd all agree, I think, that there is a real distinction between traveling to 6,000 feet and running and injecting yourself with drugs.
Or
It's
giving
not the
yourself
same.
different red
one is,
blood cells.
Well, no, one is
How about
just
that one?
one's a natural version, right? One is synthesized version of the same thing, though.
But can't we say that for the purposes of particularly of sports, which is already, think about sports, we're not talking about human beings living their normal lives. Already when you enter into professional sports, you agree to a set of largely arbitrary rules about
Right.
how that sport's supposed to proceed.
Mark's never really agreed to it.
I don't know why
I played by a lot of them, but
But I mean, so given that, it's not unreasonable for people to accept distinctions like that.
let me play the counter to that.
Yeah.
The rich get to go to 6,000 high altitude places. The rich get to go to the Dead Sea.
No, nonsense.
The poor don't get to take advantage of those because they can't afford it. Here's a synthetic version.
No, wait a second. Bullshit. Who dominates running at the international stage? Kenyans and Ethiopians.
Now, what do you think that is?
Because they live at 6,000
No,
feet.
I would disagree
And
with
they
that.
are-
I would disagree with that.
For a number of reasons, but
I
that's
would say
the
it's just,
principal reason.
what's the book by David Epstein?
The sports gene.
The sports gene.
I know David very well.
Yeah.
But David would say that is a huge.
I thought the
He would say
Kenyans were in like this little pocket where the altitude was just high enough to
Yes,
train really
they're
well,
in the
but not
sweet
too
spot.
high.
Well, no, but
6,000.
what does evolution do, right? They're Kenyans. They've been there since the dawn of time, right?
Yeah.
So your body evolves. That's what evolution does, and the strongest survive. And to be stronger to survive in that altitude and run and do what you do up
That's
there.
why people in Massachusetts put on a little extra weight, because we survived.
No, we know what makes a great runner. You're going to be a skinny person who goes up at roughly 6,000 feet. Who is the greatest American distance runner of the last 10 years? Ryan Hall, a skinny guy who grew up at 6,000 feet, only in California, not Ethiopia. But that's a very different story than sitting in your house and shooting yourself up with drugs.
Also from the second episode, we had Bill Hader on. We did a speed round with him that wasn't so speedy because They never are. Throw questions, and sometimes you get derailed. You go in a bunch of different tangents. We were not able to keep the entire speed round with Hader in there, but we were able to cobble together 6 minutes of extra stuff, and here it is.
I haven't even talked to you since you hosted SNL.
Yeah.
What was the weirdest thing about doing that?
Going into the picks, going in and seeing how the show is picked. I had never been a part of that.
What does that mean? I don't know what that
means.
means.
So you do, like, when you do the table read.
Oh.
And then you would sit there and you would hang out for an hour, and then they would post, oh, here's the sketches we're going to do. But to be a part of that meeting where they would, all the sketches were up and you would see,
you had some authority, right?
Like, yeah, you could say, oh, I like that one, I like this one. But I saw, what I didn't realize was when you was a new cast member, I always thought, oh, no one's, I didn't think anybody was fighting for me, but I was so surprised I was surprised how much Lauren is like, hey, so-and-so's late,
Yeah.
This cast member who's struggling, they need a piece, so we should maybe do this because, they had a bad week last week.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. And then before air, I mean, your adrenaline's going nuts, and then you go in, so you do dress rehearsal, and they go, all right, Lauren's ready for the meeting, and you go up and you're just like, all right, let's go. And Lauren is so chill. He's eating popcorn. He's like, did you like this? You want to do this? No? Okay. It's so chill and he just knows that show better than anything. Like, he just knows exactly what'll play, and that was cool.
True or false, you had a panic attack during a 2010 SNL episode impersonating Julian Assange.
I did, yeah. Jeff Bridges' Christmas episode. I was totally exhausted. I was so just depleted, and it happened like, I showed up on Saturday. The way I remembered it, and Seth was like, hey, Julian Assange just did another WikiLeaks thing. You're doing it tonight. And I was like, what? And I hadn't really had a chance to really look at it, and I'm not someone, I always admired Fred and Kristen and Keenan because they could just, you put something in front of them and they could just cold read it and everything.
Right.
I had to go over it and over it and over it, and I didn't feel like I was prepared. So on air, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden it felt like someone was sitting on my chest. Like, I started sweating. I thought I was going to start crying.
This was on the air?
On the air. And so if you watch, I have a glass of wine, and I just have a glass of wine. I just have it in front of my mouth the whole time. And I remember our stage manager going, like, as I'm doing it, going, and I'm like, I don't want anybody to,
oh my God,
sweating. And then it was nice because I told everybody after, and I was so embarrassed, and I was like, I just had a panic attack on air. And so many of the cast members were like, oh, I had one of those on the air once. Yeah. Do you remember when you were this about? Yeah, I was flipping out, man, or whatever. So it made me feel a little bit better.
You've done voices in Finding Dory, Inside Out. You did 2 Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs movies. Have your daughters watched these movies yet? You have 3 daughters.
Yeah, 3 daughters.
So how does that go?
It goes, they're a little embarrassed by it when they watch it. They're kind of like relate, and they go, oh, why is Dad, I think about that, and if I was watching Star Wars and suddenly my dad showed up in the Millennium Falcon, I'd be like, hey, Chewie, guys, what's going on? I'd be like, this is terrible, you know what I mean? So they're watching it with their friends, and I'm always like, can you tell who that is? And they're like, yeah, it's you. It sucks. Thanks. This is so embarrassing. No, but they did
It's only going to get worse.
I know. Oh my God.
But
now they brag about it a little bit. They don't like it. And then we're at a birthday party just yesterday, and they'll be talking to their friends, and their friends will come over like, are you Leonard from, Angry Birds? And I was like, well, yes, I am. And then Hannah's like, don't do that.
I didn't even mention Angry Birds.
Yeah.
How many kids' movies have you been in?
I've been in so many, bro.
Easy,
Mounty.
No. Just doing the voices. True or false, you once wrote a slasher film?
I did. I wrote a slasher film. Judd Apatow called me up and said, I would love to do what they did with Shaun of the Dead, but instead of zombie movies, make it a slasher movie. So I wrote it with a series of writers, all my friends. We tried out different versions of that idea, and it never worked because we realized zombies are they're fantastical. It's kind of lends itself to comedy because it's not real. But a guy with a knife, that's the 10 o'clock news.
Was Sarah Cohen not as funny?
Yeah, it wasn't as funny. You couldn't be funny in that grounded way. You had to go really insane. You know what I mean? But the way that we wanted to do it, where it is what Judd does really well, where it's kind of in a real world. It's not Zucker Brothers or something like that. And we tried a lot of different things and just kind of just both of us were like, this isn't really working.
I think Friday the 13th Part 4 is very funny. You should have watched that for inspiration.
That
Corey
the one where
Feldman's
they-
in that one.
Is that
he shaves
the one where
his
they
head at
pick-
the end.
That's not the one where he picks up the person in the sleeping bag and smashes him against the like a
that's
baseball
part
bat. Oh, that was great.
Jason Voorhees is secretly funny.
Yeah.
Our funniest movie, Serial Killer. Michael Myers, not a sense of humor.
No,
as
not
much.
a very
Put
sense
the
of
ghost
humor.
thing on once.
Yeah.
That's about it. What made you want to play a hitman on your own HBO show?
I got together with Alec Berg, who's the genius, writer on he did Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm, and he did Silicon Valley, and we just thought of, I don't know, we just thought of this weird idea, where I play a hitman who is kind of lonely, and I come to LA, and I follow the guy I'm gonna kill to his acting class, and I realize I kind of like this.
Yeah.
And it's all these very eager LA actors, and I figure maybe this is where I can start over.
So when is your show premiere?
I don't know yet, but it'll be sometime late next year.
This is a great place.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll like it.
I like it here.
All right.
I love being here. Thanks for having me.
Also from the third episode, we had Joe Rogan on, who's been the voice of the UFC since really 2002. And we did a little warm-up segment with him just to we didn't know what it was going to be. It was about all the twists and turns that his career has taken. He started talking about fear factor and conspiracy theories. It was good. It easily could have been on the show. And here it is right now.
I'm here with Joe Rogan. We have a lot in common, even though we don't have a lot in common. But you started in Boston, late 80s. You're doing your stand-up. How old are you, 21?
Yes.
You went from there. You came to Hollywood. You're in news radio. You're still pretty young. Did Fear Factor. You did The Man Show. Your path was very unconventional. What were you trying to do by your late 20s? What were you thinking, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, I was always just doing stand-up, and everything else I was just doing for money.
Right.
Something would come along, and they would say, "Do you want to act?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'll do that." And it was always like, "Well, if that sucks, I'll just go back to doing stand-up."
Yeah.
And it was never there was no choices as far as
You're just grabbing gigs.
yeah, there was no plan. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially Fear Factor.
Yeah.
There was no plan. It was like, how much? Okay, all right, we'll do it.
But somehow you've been involved in a lot of stuff that has rabid fans.
Yeah.
Fear Factor was massive
Well, it was ridiculous
for 3-4 years. It
Yeah.
was kind of the signature show out of all the game showy kind of things.
Yeah, well, Survivor
it
was
was-
first.
Right.
That was the big
Survivor
one.
is
That sort of launched the genre. And then, it was Fear Factor. And then there was a bunch of other ones. But Fear Factor was just so ridiculous. We were sicking dogs on people. They're eating animal dicks. And we're drowning them in, whatever bodily fluids that we had available. I mean, it was disgusting.
What was the grossest thing you
strange.
ever saw of Fear Factor?
I don't think there was any one particularly
Nothing
grossest
stands out.
thing. Well, we did it for 6 years, 148 episodes, and then we came back. We came back and did 6 more, and it got canceled because they made people drink cum. They made people
On NBC?
drink donkey cum. Yes, and NBC approved it.
What color was it?
It was just like regular color cum.
Okay, good.
But they had to play horseshoes. They drank donkey piss and donkey cum. And
you told them it was Donkey Kong?
I told them everything they were doing. Yeah, well, I told the people that were producing the show, don't do it. There's only 2 times I told them don't do it. I said, we can't do this episode. One, they were making them ride bulls. And they had
somebody get paralyzed.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, these are stunt bulls. I'm like, does the bull know he's a stunt bull? Because I bet he thinks he's a fucking bull. This is ridiculous.
Hey, you got lucky nobody either died or, not
Yeah.
just with the bulls, but even drinking some of the disgusting stuff or eating some of the stuff.
Well, cum at the end of the day is just like protein. It's phlegm and protein. So it's really not that big of a deal. But,
you did a conspiracy show on Sci-Fi. And I'm
Yeah.
a big conspiracy guy, and my friends always make fun of me. One of the things, the moon landing has intrigued you for years.
Well, conspiracies, yes, it has. But conspiracies have intrigued me. But I've found out a lot doing that show, which the Joe Rogan Questions Everything show on Sci-Fi. There's a classic style of human being that's into these things, and it's unfuckable white guys. Those are the type of guys that go looking for Bigfoot. I had a joke in my act. There's the one thing you don't find when you go looking for Bigfoot: black guys. you will find Bigfoot before you find black guys looking for Bigfoot. It is just a bunch of unfuckable white dudes out camping.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's like some weird thing. They hit this point when they're like in their 40s or their 50s and like, nobody wants to fuck me anymore. I got to find ultimate truth. Right. I gotta, there's a UFO. It's a Hangar 18.
Bermuda
I got to get
Triangle.
there. Yeah, there's something
With that said, the
about
moon landing is a
solving
little
mysteries.
fishy.
The moon landing, here's the issue with the whole era of the 1960s and the 1970s. There was a lot of deception going on.
Yes.
This is where Operation Northwoods was created, where the government, the Joint Chiefs of Staff signed a document saying that they were going to blow up a drone jetliner, blame it on Cuba. They were going to arm Cuban friendlies and attack Guantanamo Bay. There was a lot of deception. This is Watergate. This is the Nixon administration, and there was just a lot of fuckery.
All the stuff the Republicans are doing to the Democrats, like the Muskie letter, all that stuff. You're right.
Yeah, it was.
Even the Hollywood movies back then, they were always geared around like the government trying to pull something over and people trying to realizing a
candidate. Yeah. Well, there was a lot of deception. There was a lot of. It was standard, and so they definitely fucked with some photographs. Like there's some photos of Michael Collins that they tried to pass off. I think it was Gemini 15. Tried to pass it off as him being in space, when people found out that it was actually just these tests that they were doing, these preparation runs, and they just blacked out the background and tried to pass out those photos as space. So if you look at that, you got to go, well, if they were willing to do that, and the PR team did that, how far did they go?
If I had to bet my life on it, I would bet it happened, but I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, I would put myself in the same camp. I think there was definitely some fuckery involved in some of the footage that we viewed. And there's been some people that have, gone over it with a fine-tooth comb and found some irregularities, but you kind of got to use Occam's razor whenever you're looking at any of those things. Like, what is the most likely possibility? The most likely possibility is that we went.
What conspiracy theory do you actually believe in that's a conventional conspiracy theory and you're like, I'm actually in on this one 100%?
I don't think there's one.
There's like dozens.
I don't think even dozen. No, I don't think there's a one that I buy.
Oh, so everyone you have a shred of doubt.
Well, that was the problem with that show. When you do that show, the Questions Everything show, and I met with the experts about like UFOs or Bigfoot or any of these things, you find out there's almost no evidence. There's nothing. Like as you go deep into it, it's all just anecdotes. It's all just people's stories. It's all just people saying that this happened to them. But people are fucking crazy. So if you get like 100 people, you're gonna find one crazy person. So if you have 300 million people, you've got 3 million crazy people. So the fact that all these people have sightings, there has to be something to it. No, there doesn't. Because you're dealing with massive numbers of human beings, and you're dealing with all sorts of weird mental issues, all sorts of paranoid schizophrenics, all sorts of people that desperately want to be special. They desperately want to be the one who's in contact with the Palladians on Starship 17 out there. There's just a lot of wackiness. So the
NBA has a good one, by the way. I know you're not a big NBA fan, but the 1985 draft lottery, Patrick Ewing was the prize, and the Knicks got the #1 pick. And there's video, people have slowed it down. They're picking the envelopes out of the thing, and people either think the envelope was frozen with the Knicks, or that it had a little corner that was. So Stern's reaching in, and people have like stopped the video to see if was he fumbling around, he felt the frozen one, and that was the one he pulled.
Oh, so
that's
they made
my
one
favorite.
That was really cold. That's actually a good move.
Yeah, if they did it like carbon, whatever.
Yeah.
I like 10% believe it.
10%?
Yeah, 10%.
It's fun.
Last thing, podcasts. I started mine in May 2007. You started yours 2009 somewhere?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Are you amazed by how big this genre has become?
It's bananas. Like, the numbers are insane. And, when we first started it out, it was just for fun. It was just a goof. It was a silly thing to do.
With your buddies?
Yeah, it was just, we thought it'd be fun to just hang out and talk shit,
You'll smoke pot on your pod. I don't. I'm afraid to do anything like that.
Why afraid?
Well, because I'm just not good at drugs.
Oh.
I'm bad at doing them.
Well, then you should
be
do
confident.
It. Yeah. I'm good at pot. So
yeah, you're much better at drugs than I am.
Also from the third show, we had Chris Bosch and Anthony Anderson on. And I had Chris Bosch on a podcast probably 3 years ago at All-Star Weekend. And I think I only had him for 25 minutes, and he was so interesting that I wish it could have gone on for 90 minutes. Really thoughtful guy. I'm not sure if his destiny is an announcer or a media guy once he retires. I don't see him on a studio show. I think he's a little, I don't know, it's almost like he's better long form. I don't know where it goes for him, but he's definitely going to be able to do something really smart. And Anthony Anderson's great. They were awesome together. Here's a 7-minute clip that we did not put in the show about them talking about LeBron James.
Is LeBron the best for you?
One of the best, yeah.
I still have Jordan.
So do I.
I promised myself I would never say anyone past Jordan, so now I'm gonna just be stubborn.
As you should be.
I just feel like a stubborn old guy.
Your top 5 is your top 5. It doesn't have to change for anybody.
I put him over Bird, which was really hard for me.
Really?
Yeah. He's played 13 straight years where he's just been healthy every year. Like Bird played 9, he broke down.
Yeah.
It's just hard to justify anymore.
Think Cleveland can repeat?
Yeah, for sure, of course.
Yeah, okay.
I think, JR is still out there. Of course, there's still moves to be made, but yeah, they'll be right there.
Did you think LeBron was going to win that series? After Bogut got hurt, you started thinking maybe.
I started out watching, and when they went down 3-1, of course I was like, ooh,
yeah,
that's
tough.
Yeah, you don't want to be in that situation. But me, automatically as a basketball player, you think of reasons why it could happen. Automatically. I think, why should Golden State be nervous? That's the first thing I think about, because it's hard to close someone out. And, unfortunately, Draymond was suspended, so I started looking at that. And then Cleveland wins Game 5. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, okay.
Right.
Let's see what happens Game 6. They got to exercise some demons from last year.
Yeah.
They dominate Game 6. Ooh.
Now you got
anything
LeBron
can happen in Game 7.
Yeah.
Anything can happen in Game 7, but you got to give a slight nod to the home team. I think it'll go down to the wire. And it was just such a strange game because Golden State played well, but Cleveland was still in it.
And then Golden State just started missing.
Yeah.
It's the irony of ironies. A team that couldn't miss, all of a sudden they couldn't make a shot when it mattered.
Yeah, but you're on the edge of your seats because it's like that can happen at any minute.
Yeah.
And it never came.
And it never happened.
Wait a minute, it's still tied. And then Brian makes that incredible block, which at the time I thought like, oh man, oh my God. I'm watching the game nervous.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my goodness, he's gonna get a layup, and he comes out of nowhere. And
did you ever see him do anything like that?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. Did you ever see him do anything like that in Miami? A moment like that?
Not a moment, no. Not a moment like that.
Because I thought that was the defining play of his career.
Some plays similar to that.
Yeah.
But, the distance that... I didn't even see him. I was watching TV and didn't see him. He just came out of nowhere. And I was wow. And then I guess...
There's an incredible clip of it. They had like the behind the basket camera, and you can just see him. And at one point, he's running to get back.
Yeah.
Somebody kind of cuts off his path. And he's almost like a running back. Like he navigates and then he still somehow gets it.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
incredible. I think he's in the top 3 now. I think it's got to be
he's
him.
up there.
Him, Russell, and LeBron. And Jordan.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome thing. And then just being able to do that for Cleveland, for Cleveland, the city of Cleveland. Yeah. I didn't know how big it was till I saw the ESPN reporters like breaking down and talking about their dads and this is like a moment for us in the city. I'm like, golly, like that's, good for them.
Is it going to be like that when the Clippers finally win the title?
If and when we finally do win. we got a little work ahead of us.
Are the Clippers now the new most tortured franchise in the NBA?
I think so.
Because Cleveland had to pass the title to somebody, so it's either Sacramento, Washington, Phoenix, Clippers. Clippers have had the most tragedies.
They're up there. Look, they're up there in the top 3. You just named all 3, so we'll see.
We got to get you the Billy Crystal seat.
We'll see if we can get over that hurdle.
How do we get you the Billy Crystal seat?
Billy Crystal has to relinquish his seat.
Maybe we take him out.
Okay,
maybe like just push him to the right, like 2 seats.
How about I just sit next to Billy Crystal?
That's
I actually sit behind him now. How about if I just sit next to him?
We got to get you in the wood. All right, so prediction. Obviously, you're in the league, so this is a tough one. But you're not ready to hand the title over to Golden State.
No, of course not. Not even to Cleveland.
I'm not ready either.
You have to go out there and earn it, man. You have to win. All these things have to happen. You have to be lucky. You have to be healthy. You have to buy into the whole thing. You have to be tight as a unit.
Your players can't punch your equipment manager. There's a lot of variables.
and it all has to happen at a certain time. You can be healthy, at the beginning of the season, in the middle of the season, but everything has to click.
You have to click for sure.
you know, and there's a certain timeline where that happens, and that's when that window of opportunity presents itself for the champion to become a champion.
I'm always amazed by how much injuries play into this. If you just go back year by year by year, like every year an injury has pushed something some way at some point. Like even like your first title, Derrick Rose blows out his knee in the last minute of the first playoff game.
Yeah.
And who knows? Like that would have been a good battle for you.
Kevin
guys.
got hurt.
Kevin got
hurt. What was that?
That was the 2009 Celtics was a tough one.
2009. He got hurt.
They're the best team. But every year.
I think it was 88, 89, I think Magic and Byron Scott, they pulled up.
In 89 finals.
Of course, Detroit, you know, swept them and everything, but just you see it like they can't go on anymore. And it just.
I mean, you can even say in 2013, if Parker's hamstring is healthier, does that swing 2 possessions?
I mean, even me. I mean, we don't talk about these things as athletes, and it was minor compared to other guys, but I had a turned ankle. It's one thing you realize.
2014.
I sprained it really bad against the Pacers in that series, and you know, you realize at one point it's no reason in even talking about your ailments and what you did because it doesn't matter. You know, nobody cares. There's a harsh reality to the game, and when you get that far, it's about being healthy. Well, we're not healthy. I'm not healthy, and I'm still expected to go out here at the highest level and compete for this championship. And that's what you got. You got to do what you got to do.
Pain is temporary. Championships are forever.
Yeah, that's a great saying until you lose it, and then you're like, I don't want to hear that. Don't you tell me that ever. This is just so true. You know, I'm never going to recover from this, and it's just it's a really hard thing to deal with, but it is true.
Yeah. Well, Anthony is like one of the most durable actors on TV.
Oh yeah, I played through the pain, baby. I played through the pain, baby.
All right, the last clip is from the 4th episode. We had Aaron Rodgers on for about an hour. We used 20 minutes for the show, and then we cut 2 more clips. One was a speed round, and one was a really nerdy football deep dive that we are running right now.
True or false? You have a photographic memory and can remember just about every football play you've ever run.
I mean, I don't know how to say that truthfully, because I'd get tested and probably wouldn't remember something.
You mean like right now when I'm going to throw a question at you?
So I don't want to say yes because you're probably going to.
Okay. Cards 31, Packers 10. Playoff game. The Kurt Warner game. You get the ball. 3rd down and 10 from your own 20. You're down 21. 3rd quarter. What happens on that play?
I mean, that's tough. I'm going to have to. We're down 10. We're coming out. So I either hit 3rd and 10.
See, nobody can remember this. This is my point. All right.
I have no idea. Do you have the answer?
Yeah.
Did it hit Greg Jennings on the backside in? Or
it was Finley for 18 yards.
Yeah, see, I don't know. Couldn't say.
Okay. That's an old wives' tale.
That's why I don't say yes. Exactly.
Would you rather have A- running backs and receivers, but a C- offensive line, or an A- offensive line with D- running backs and receivers?
A- offensive line.
Really? How come?
Because if you can protect the quarterback, you're going to have an opportunity to find guys open. The defense just can't cover for that long. So, and we can make Green Bay. We can make guys D-. We can bump them up to at least a C. So.
The QB club, though. You said you took stuff from people. Who else did you take stuff from?
Well, I like watching Peyton. You know, Peyton, I think, did a lot for the pre-snap for everybody. I mean, his ability.
The Omaha stuff.
That was important. I think that's really interesting. The root of that is a timing mechanism where his offense can get off at the same time. And then the beauty and the brilliance of it is that it goes from that word to, you saw numerous times he would change it. He would have a code word that would mean that it wasn't coming on the Omaha.
Yeah.
It wasn't Omaha said, that was a dummy. And that was a beauty. You know, he doesn't take the chances that we do in Green Bay when we draw somebody off sides.
Yeah.
But his ability to manipulate that, I mean, their thing, I think, was if a guy jumped off sides, the offensive lineman would move and initiate contact, or just move to where you get the neutral zone infraction, where we want to snap it and take a shot down the field. But the stuff he does pre-snap and his ability to the thing I loved about Peyton for years is, especially in Indy, is they would stay in a 2-by-2 set in any personnel group. Yeah. They just Marvin would play one side and Reggie would play the other side, and they'd have either two tight ends or a third receiver in the slot, and be able to run their entire offense out of that, and not have motion or dilute it down with trying to be a offensive guru and create some incredible plays. Just our offense in 2x2 is going to be better than you can do. We're going to go to tempo where you just can't match it. And there's a lot to be said about that I've always tried to get in the minds of the decision makers in Green Bay, is that the simplest stuff is often the stuff that works best. And I always appreciate that about Peyton.
Well, the biggest things, I mean, you became the starting quarterback 2008.
Yep.
And over the last, I would say, 11, 12 years, really starting with when the Colts complained about the Patriots being too physical at the line of scrimmage, I think, which was in 04. And year after year, it became easier for quarterbacks. You had guys weren't getting jammed at the line. Guys aren't diving at your knees. So you had all that. Everything's shifting your way. And then on top of that, you have this huge advantage that if you guys can go to the line and be able to audible and read what you're seeing, you saw it with you saw it with Manning, saw it with Brady. That seems like the biggest advantage anybody could have in sports. And yet, last year, a team wins with defense. So I don't know what to make anymore. What do I make of this league?
It's cyclical. Things come back around, whether it's schematics or the advantages. And you saw for years where the offense had the ability to communicate through an earpiece, and the defense didn't. And that changed in 2008.
Yeah.
Where the stealing signals was out.
Yeah.
After that. And then you saw, obviously the rule changes have helped us out. But I think you've seen the last couple of years a little bit less of the enforcement. I think, I don't know what the numbers exactly are, but less of an enforcement of the illegal contact, pass interference to become more great. There's been more offensive pass interference. We created a play in Green Bay that involved the number 3 receiver run to the flat and number 1 and 2 blocking.
Yeah.
And it was a play to defeat zone coverage or to get us an easy out of bounds play. And that's been called very tightly because it's a copycat league. So, Cincinnati was doing it a bunch. Eli and Giants do it a ton.
Yeah.
It's been getting called a lot more with the offensive pass interference, even in gray areas. We got called last year. We ran a slant and a flat pattern. I threw it to the flat for a touchdown. The slant pattern is looking for the ball. James Jones runs into the defender inadvertently, and they called pass interference on us and wiped out the touchdown on that play, which is obviously very frustrating. But the root of it is they don't want the offense to be able to do those picks and get those extra advantages to try and equal things out. Now, defensive players would say, it's not even close, the rule changes, and I would agree to a certain depth. But I think they are trying to make it a little bit more balanced in little ways they can.
Have you played a game where you just felt like the defense knew every single thing you were saying at the line of scrimmage?
No, but with the way that we're mic'd up now, with the guards being mic'd up and you play a nationally televised game.
Oh yeah.
They can hear every cadence you have. You have to constantly change those up. You have to change up the live words and the dummy words. Your cadence, I think it helps my cadence because we draw people off sides all the time.
Yeah.
When you have a non-rhythmic cadence, it doesn't matter how many times you hear it, it's going to be different. A scout team quarterback is going to have a hard time replicating that during the week. To when you get in the game, the adrenaline starts going. It's a big play, a big third down. You can kind of sense it when they're going to jump off sides. It's just a matter of our guys being able to have the
discipline. You can see it in their eyes? How do you sense it?
Well, you can just kind of feel it, I think.
Yeah.
This is when it's a big third down, whether it could be in the first quarter or the fourth quarter. There's kind of some areas between the 40s a lot of times. You're almost in the field goal range where you just have an idea this could be a play where they jump off sides, so then you do that. Or you do the flip side, where if it's ingrained in their minds so many times, they're talking about all week in the media, like we got to stay on sides, and you go on first sound.
Yeah.
And then you can get that little extra advantage of getting the ball snapped before they're ready.
People always talk about how calm you are out there, which is was always the famous story about Joe Montana in the Super Bowl. We saw John Candy, Tom Brady's like that. Does a quarterback have to be cool? Can a quarterback be hyper and still be good at being quarterback?
I think so. I mean, I think there's a lot of guys who have some streaks.
Hyper?
Maybe not hyper, but animated, yeah.
But it seems like everybody's it's almost like how golfers are. There's a certain calmness that you need to have, because I'm sure there's huddles where you're down 3, you're on the road, everybody's got all the momentum's against you, the crowd's going crazy, and you have these 10 other guys and they're just looking at you and they're seeing if you're scared. Do you feel that?
For sure, you do. But I think the thing about leadership is you have to understand the guys you're working with. And not everybody responds to the same type of leadership. So some guys you need to kind of jump their ass a little bit and get on them, and some guys you got to give them a pass and pat them on the ass, say, hey, it's fine.
I mean, if you jump their ass, they'll be hurt. Their feelings will be hurt.
Well, some guys maybe. Yeah. But some guys they need that. Maybe they respond better to that type of energy and criticism. So it depends. I think you can be a more of an amped up guy if you got a team, a younger team that responds better to yelling at them or ripping their ass in the huddle. Our guys are a lot more laid back, I would say, and kind of taking on more my demeanor, where we know what we have to do to be successful. Yeah. And no yelling or showing a guy up on the field or showing a guy up in the huddle or on the sidelines is really going to help us accomplish what we want to accomplish, and that's being efficient and winning football games. So, we have a good feel. I think it starts with the offensive line and kind of trickles down to the skill positions.
What do you think, if there's one thing people you wish they knew about the quarterback position, either how hard it is or some little fact that you just don't feel like they know, what is it?
That's tough because we talk about it so much. They know everything about it. They hear everything that we say.
So you feel like you're overexposed. Maybe that's the answer.
Well, yeah. Not yet. I think the next thing is when they put the camera in your helmet, and then they see exactly what you're looking at every time. But I think at times people have said, and it's a compliment, that I make it look easy, or it looks too easy out there. And I just try and remind them it's not easy. It's tough to do what we do. It takes a lot of preparation. I've always said that we win games between Monday and Saturday. Yeah. The way you prepare allows you to play with that confidence in the field. People, why are you so calm on the field or confident? It's because I've played out every scenario from Monday to Saturday. Yeah. So when I get out there, I'm not surprised a lot. I think if you ask, the great ones, you ask Tom and Drew and Peyton, they'd say the same thing. You're winning games through your preparation during the week.
That's it for the special edition of the Any Given Wednesday bonus clip podcast marathon. You can check out the new splash page that we put up on HBO now that has all the clips, and check out the show. We do not have a show this week. We come back next week, Wednesday, and we're on for the next 4 weeks after that. You can watch it on HBO Wednesday nights, 10 o'clock. You can watch us on HBO now. You can watch a ton of replays on HBO and HBO 2. And we will be back with a real BS podcast with a guest later in the week. Thanks.
Anytime y'all want to see me again,